but I'll come and join us as soon as possible. Alright, so let's start with a little problem. So we've got a little snippet here in DevTools, and essentially all I want to do is to return an array of the positive numbers. My inputs are a comma separated list. How would you go about this?
Let's start by typing return after we put curly braces.
Alright, why not? We want to return something at the end.
Numbers dot.
Numbers dot. Alright.
What is it? Is that weird? Fine. Okay, no.
Filter.
Yeah, right. It's not right. It's just okay. Numbers are greater than.
What is numbers in this case?
You say you want to return what?
See the name of the function? Get array of positive numbers. I want to return an array of positive numbers.
Let's return positive. The first argument, maybe?
Yeah, so firstly my question was, what is numbers? Because you're trying to return numbers dot filter, yeah? But numbers is not an array at the moment. What is numbers? It's not a string.
Numbers are numbers.
It's definitely a parameter or an argument, yeah, but what data type does it have?
No,
Not a number, people are saying. Any other suggestions? What usually happens when we put an input here? It goes up here, yeah, and it gets assigned into a variable with the name of whatever we put up here. We have 7 arguments and we have 1 parameter listed.
It's an array.
It's not an array. No. If I run it, -3 is the value of numbers. Yeah?
Because I don't know what this here is just defining the first thing
Yes.
behind the comma.
This parameter up here, even though I've called it numbers, yeah, I mean that semantically isn't correct, just takes the value of this first argument here. Yeah? So if we wanted all the other ones, we'd have to do like num2, comma, num3. This doesn't look very good, right? There's an arguments object, is that what you're saying? Kate? Yeah, okay, so let's have a look at that, because that was the old-fashioned way that we'd solve this sort of problem. So, Kate is saying, built into JavaScript, there is something called arguments. Let's have a look at that now. Just comment that out so we don't get any errors. If I run that code in the console now, we can see that we've returned this arguments thing, this arguments object, I'm going to call it for now. And it looks quite like an array. It seems to have this square bracket sort of notation. It's italicized. It's italics, yeah, it's slanted a little bit. And it seems to have collected together all of our arguments here, right? All of our numbers, plus some extra information. We can see that it looks like it's been indexed. At the 0 index, we've got -3, and so forth, yeah? So maybe we could then call arguments.filter, perhaps. Yeah, and then filter out only the positive ones. Let's complete the filter function and see whether we can get it to work. If I want to filter only positive numbers and put them in an array, how would I do that? What was that, Kelly? Sorry? Oh, who said something? I'm hearing voices. I've gone mad already. You heard a voice as well? I thought it was Kelly.
Would you do would you do number function or the arrow function.
Right, yep, so you want to have an arrow function that takes in number as an input, yeah?
Yeah, and then number equal to or greater than 0.
My shortcut didn't work. So number greater than or equal to 0. That looks like a good test to me, right? If this is true, then we're going to include it in our final filtered array. So -3, is that greater than or equal to 0? Nope, so that would return false. So that means we will discard that out of our final array. -1, is it greater than or equal to 0? Nope. So therefore, we would not include that in our final array. 2, is it greater than or equal to 0?
Yes.
Yes, right? So that should get put into our final array. So that's one sort of approach we might be able to use. Let's run it and see whether it works though. Remember, we managed to access this arguments object. It looked like an array, but is it the same sort of thing? Ooh, arguments.filter is not a function. So we know for definite that filter is an array method. It's a function that can be called only on array objects.
So the return positive. Instead of arguments, it's return positive.
No, it's argument and array.
So yeah, exactly, Ahmed. So the question is arguments an array? It's an array-like object, but it is not an array. So that means we cannot use all of these really powerful methods on it. We can't use find and filter and all those sorts of things, yeah? If I returned, how do I test if something is an array? I think you had it in beginner training under... Nice. Very well remembered. So array... I hope this is not going to say true. I've never actually tested it on arguments. It should return false, hopefully. Array.is array arguments. Okay, I'll leave the other return there for now. It's not going to affect it. It says false, right? Arguments is not an array. So we can't use filter. So we've still got a bit of a problem. We've got two potential solutions. We can convert arguments into an array somehow. Or
with join?
With join. So join, what does join work on? What sort of method is join?
Join is method of an array.
Join is a string method, yeah? No, hold on, no, the other way around. Join is an array method, but it turns things into strings, yeah? So again, we couldn't use join because it only works on array objects. So we could convert it, or the original question is, how do we get these inside of an array so that we can filter? Is there a shortcut way of doing that in modern JavaScript? Rather than listing out all the separate arguments, and then of course we could just create our own array, right? We could say let numbers equal, and then inside we could put num1, comma num2, etc. Right? That would work.
3 dots.
Yeah, nice. So has anyone come across the 3 dots before? So literally dot, dot, dot. Yeah? Ellipses. Yeah, I think it's the official name, but dot, dot, dot. Kieran put his hand up. What do they do, Kieran? Or what can they do? So instead of doing all this and making it quite complicated, yeah?
3 dots.
You can put 3 dots.
But before that, put num.
Before that, put num.
After that.
So does it go there? Don't think so.
No.
It goes after, right? I'm going to call it numbers, yeah, because there's a group of numbers there. Now, if I console.log numbers, what do we expect the value of numbers to be? Without the dots, yes, without the dots. So what the 3 dots is doing is assigning something into a variable called numbers. What that something is, we're just about to find out. What do you think it will do first, before we reveal the answer?
Increment
What was that, Bella?
all the numbers.
all the numbers in what form? In a string? In a different type of object? What form will it take?
A string.
You reckon a string?
Yeah.
Instead of an array. Okay, let's have a look.
It's not going to be an array.
It's not going to be an array. All right. Oh, it's an array. Yeah. So. No, I wasn't expecting that. Yeah. Of course, I wasn't expecting that. That's what the 3 dots does, right? It has 2 uses. If we use it up here, where the parameters are defined, it gathers all of our arguments here into one array. That's what it does. Yeah. So now we've actually got what we need. We've got all of our numbers here inside of an array, which means we can apply our filter method that we wrote earlier onto numbers. Yeah? Are we following?
Yeah.
Someone say no?
You said there were 2 things it can do. What's the second thing?
Alright, we'll come on to the second thing. Let's get the function working first. There's two ways it can be used. Not 2 things it can do. It can do many things, but 2 ways it can be used. It can be used up here in the parameters list, or it can be used inside of our function itself. Sometimes you'll hear it referred to as the gather or spread. So here we're gathering things, yeah? We're gathering it all into an array. And up there it's known as the rest parameter, right? Or rest parameters are the things that we have gathered into one array. Alright, and so let's see if this now works. If we replace arguments, which is not a array, with something that actually is an array, and see what happens. This time it works, right? So we wrote our filter function correctly, thanks to Jack earlier, and we've returned an array with just all of the positive numbers inside.
Why is that you
Because
use
there's an array
the
and
console
you
log
use-
instead of the return? In which cases
Yeah.
you use one and in which cases you use the other?
So we got a quick question from Seb. He said, when do we use console.log and when do we use the return statement?
I was thinking exactly the same. If you remove console, it should still work.
Oh yeah, absolutely. If we remove console.log, it should still work. That's not affecting the output in any way of the function. So when do we use console.log
I
then?
think we only use it for probably debugging.
Yeah, we use it for debugging. So all it does, Seb, is it prints a message out to our console just so we can be sure what value something has at a certain point in time.
So it's similar as when you put the I don't know how to call it, in the numbers that you
The breakpoints?
yeah, the breakpoints.
Yeah, it has a similar purpose, right? All of that comes under the topic of debugging. Yeah, we've got something wrong with our code and we want to find out exactly where the error is and how to fix it. Those are a couple of tools we can use to do that, definitely. Return is actually going to give us some sort of output from that function that we can use later on in our code. Yeah, so that's why we make functions return something. A function doesn't have to return anything, right? We come across this case with for each, just returned undefined, right? But it could still be used to modify arrays that are elsewhere in our code, or it could be used even to do some sort of database update or something like that.
Does has a name or is this called 3 dots?
So, yep, up here it's referred to as rest parameters. So rest and spread, yeah, it's the 2 uses of the 3 dots. In English, 3 dots in a row I think are called ellipses. Yeah. Yeah, ellipses, yeah. As far as I'm aware. But you will often, if I go to some articles on the web, it says 5 uses for the spread operator, right? So they're calling ... the spread operator. We haven't seen it in that context yet. We've only seen it gathering. Yeah, we've only gathered so far, but we're going to see how we can use it to spread things as well. All right. Any questions on that bit first? Cool.
The thing about this REST parameters is that not many people understand it. It's kind of newish, isn't it?
Yeah, it's new, but it's incredibly useful, right? And why is it that hard? You have lots of inputs here. You put 3 dots in front of them, and it stores it in an array. You know what arrays are. You know what values are.
What I'm saying is that it all depends on if the company you're working with actually understands what you're doing.
I would use it, right? If they don't understand, you can explain it to them probably in one line, and then they will see the benefits of it. So, yeah, I would not avoid using 3 dots or rest or spread based on a company's or your colleagues' knowledge. I think it's something that's quite easy to get your head around once you've used it a few times. Yeah, and it has many, many benefits. We don't want to be stuck always writing old code just because we're worried about other people not understanding it, right? I think this is a big improvement over the way we used to do things. And for me, it's a lot more confusing to, I don't know, be trying to convert our arguments object into an array, right? Because even if I did let numbers equal, and I try and put my arguments inside an array, that's just not going to work, right? Just doing that, we're going to end up with a nested array. So again, if I want to see what the value of numbers is, I can just log it. Yeah, so I'm not sure whether I've written this code correctly, Seb, so I'm trying to debug it first before. Maybe it doesn't even let me do that, right? Identify number. Oh, it's already been declared up there. Yeah, okay. Okay, so yeah, it doesn't let me put my arguments inside an array in any way. It just gives me an empty array. I think I can probably use the 3 dots there to spread out my arguments object and put it inside an array. Again, it's not something I've tried, but yeah, that works, right? But obviously before we didn't have these 3 dots to spread things out, to spread out any iterable thing. So that is a way that we could easily convert all of our arguments into an array without using it up there if we didn't want to. So this time it's not gathering because we've used it inside of the function body, it's spreading out all of our arguments and placing them inside an array. So it has 2 functions. It either gathers if they're listed up here, or it spreads if we use it in the function body.
It makes sense for now, and I know what the job is. If I'm struggling with something, I'll use I'll convert it to an array.
Didn't hear that question, Ahmed. Just say it again, please.
I was saying is, the way to use .dot now, I know next time I don't have to try and do the long time to convert something into an array. I'll just use it and it'll do it for me automatically.
When will it do it automatically? Sorry, when you do what?
If I want to convert something into an array,
Yeah.
I'm just going to use the 3 dots.
Yeah, if you've got a comma separated list of things down here and you want them inside of an array, absolutely, 3 dots at the top is the way to do it. What about if I wanted to find the maximum number from a list of numbers?
Oh,
Max.me.
No, don't
Maximum we're going for, not the minimum.
Oh,
So,
max.
yeah, number.
So to find the maximum, I could do math dot max, and then what am I passing into math dot max then? Nums or numbers? I'll call it.
Yeah, number. Country. See, I did this.
Just return numbers.
Yeah, there's
I
a
don't know maximum.
Huh? What's that? I've just done it in 2 steps. Alright, I didn't need to do it in 2 steps, but just to be clear. I'm going to reuse maximum probably later. We'll change the example slightly. So is there anything wrong with that? So we've gathered all of our values into an array, and then we've done math.max and passed in that array to math.max, and hopefully it will find the maximum. Yeah? Alright, any objections? No? Cool, let's run it, see what happens.
Here has an objection. He has an objection. Wait. He is gone.
Who's he? Can we use his name?
Yeah.
Kieran has an objection. Yes? What's up, Kieran? Yeah. Yeah. Brackets at the end, square brackets at the end of numbers. Well, like that? Or does anything go inside? With a 0? So what would that then do? Find the maximum of numbers at index 0. So it will find the maximum of -3, which is probably going to be -3. Yeah? You get the idea though, you get the principle though. The square brackets are accessing the index of something inside of the array. Alright, I've got an issue with it, but I'm going to run it first and see what happens. Return maximum, what's going on here?
Can we do return?
It's DevTools messed up. It's just bring back positive numbers and previous.
Oh yeah, of course it is, because I haven't changed the name of my function, so it's still just bringing the one that I've got stored in memory. Ooh, not a number. Why does math.max do that? As a method, what do we put inside of math.max?
Oh, you put numbers, you don't put array.
Yeah, usually we'd put something like 1, 2, 3, yeah, wouldn't we? And it would find the maximum. We don't feed it an array, an array of values, even an array like that, of values, that would cause it to fail. Alright?
Which is exactly what we're doing, like it was understand.
Yeah, so this is what we're attempting to do, right?
Yeah.
We're attempting to do that. And we get not a number returned. If it was a comma separated list, it would correctly find 3. So my question is, yeah, we want to give it all of these numbers, but how do we put them back into a comma separated list for it without writing num1, num2, num3, num4?
How about if we put 3 dots before the numbers?
How about, I like this suggestion, Ahmed, if we put 3 dots before the numbers, what is that going to do?
Should convert it into
I
an array.
don't feel.
You don't feel confident? No?
Because it's the same syntax to do just the opposite.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same syntax to do just the opposite. Yeah, that's a very good point. But didn't I say it? So Seb's like, nah, that's just stupid, yeah? Whoever designed that, if it works, is just an idiot.
That's a really tough word. No.
Okay, I'm putting words in your mouth. All right. But awkward. Sorry to make you feel awkward. We said it has 2 roles. These 3 dots can do 2 things. They can gather things, or they can spread things. Up here, it gathers. Down here, it spreads it back out. So it can actually do the opposite
But I thought
based
that
on where it's used.
spread was to also put things in an array, as we said.
It could be if we chose to spread things out into an array like that, but we're not choosing to do that in this case. We're just choosing to spread them out into a comma separated list that is getting given to math.max.
Okay.
Yeah?
So you can spread things in different kind of places.
Yep. So we have to spread it into something. So here we're spreading it into a method, and that works. Before, we managed to spread it inside of an array. Can we spread things inside of an object?
Why not?
It's already spread. No, it's gathered at the moment up here, right? We've gathered it into numbers.
Okay.
So then could we spread it into an object? It's saying it's unexpected, so we can spread things into an object, but they must have been objects themselves first, or 2D arrays. That's the only way we can do it. We can't just change an array into an object by using the spread operator. That doesn't work. I'll show you an example later where we can use the spread operator with objects. But you need some sort of container to spread things into, right? We can't just do, I don't know, 6 plus dot dot dot, oops, where's it gone? Dot dot dot, numbers or something like that, right? Yeah, it's just unexpected token. There's nothing to spread it inside of. Can we do it in a string? I don't think so, right? Even if we did it as a backtick, what will we get? Curious, never tried it again. Sorry, I'm experimenting a lot today. This is how we learn though, right? We just play around with code and see if it breaks. If it doesn't, maybe we use it in the future. Error. I don't think it likes being spread in that way, right? Unexpected token again. So, no, I think just stick to spreading things inside of arrays or arguments for now. Yeah? Also works with sets, but we'll come on to sets later. Alright. There is obviously some training on the platform to deal with the rest and the spread operator. Should we jump over there now and have a go at some questions?
Yeah.
Yeah?
In which situation you can spread or gather to an object?
Yep, so we'll look at spreading and gather. Well, let's do it now, alright then. So have I got any objects here? I've got an object. We're going to do the objects first, just because it's been requested. So I'm just creating two objects that we can concatenate or join together. Alright, so we've got some popularity ratings. And the way our program's been set up, these ratings have come from two different data sources, let's say, right? A survey of one group and a survey of another group. We want to just first combine all of our ratings into one object so that we can then do whatever we want with them. So here's my first ratings. Usain Bolt, he was quite popular, right? The runner. Gollum's not very popular, being the villain. Denzel, popular actor. David Attenborough, everyone loves Attenborough. Hasselhoff, nah, not very popular. Tom Hanks again, very popular. Lord Voldemort, nah, he was pretty evil. And Theresa May seems to be way less popular than anyone these days. So bless her. But yeah, there we go. We've got some ratings. How do we combine these two objects into one object?
We create a variable first.
Yeah, sure. Let's just say let ratings equal
Rating 1 plus rating 2.
ratings 1 plus ratings 2. Does that work with objects?
I would say curly braces. Use a template. Okay.
I just want to see what this was the first suggestion, so I just want to see what this returns. What do we think this is going to return, everyone? Nothing. Error. Yeah. Get max popular is not fine. Hold on. Yeah. That's my error though, not yours. What are we passing in? We're passing in ratings 1 and ratings 2.
You have to enter rating, isn't it? You have to enter something.
Get combined. going on? Oh, you want to return something? Sorry, of course, yeah. Yeah, so we get that, right? Did you see it? Object, object. Yeah, so when we try and convert something to a string, which is what this plus operator is trying to do in this case, is it a number? Nope. Well, therefore I'm going to treat it as a string. Well, the string version of all of these ratings is just object, object, unfortunately, in JavaScript, the way we do it like that. So it's combined two objects into a string, and that's what we got. Not really what I was looking for. Another suggested way, I think Ed said wrap it in.
Using template literal.
Can't use push because that's an array method. Use a template literal, okay. So you want to do backticks?
Yeah.
And then do what? The same?
The dollar sign.
Alright, I think we're still going to get object, object, Ed, but it's worth a try. So something like that is what you were looking for?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's run that again. We still get object, 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 object.
I'm trying to return the max.
No, so I want to combine all of these ratings, right? We've got ratings for 4 people here in an object. We've got ratings for 4 people here in an object. I want an object that contains 8 people's ratings in total. Yeah. We definitely have to create a new object. How do we do that, Sonia? Yeah, object literal. We can use the curly braces to create a new object. What goes inside that object? Bearing in mind we're trying to show an example of the spread operator using objects, right? That was the purpose of doing this exercise as requested. So let's do some 3 dots. What do we want to spread? Ratings 1 and ratings 2, right?
Just like that without a comma?
Good point. Does it need a comma or not? Yes, it does need a comma, right? Because in objects we separate things using a comma, the same way we do in arrays, yeah? Here we got a comma, 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 yeah?
Spreading it or regarding it?
No, what do you think we're doing?
I don't know.
Okay, so up here, right, in the parameters list, that is where we gather things. Is it up there, the dot, 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 in the parameters list? No, so therefore we are spreading it, yeah? We only gather when it's up in the parameters list for the purpose of these demonstrations, yeah?
Okay, so you gather it, and then when you're creating the new object, you
Yeah, anywhere else in the function, right? It doesn't matter if it's on line 3 or right down here, it would be spreading, yeah? It only gathers when we use it up here as a parameter. It's the spread operator. It's known as a spread operator. So in JavaScript in general, it spreads, but when we use it as a REST parameter, yeah, to gather parameters, then that's the only time it will gather. Alright, so what this is going to do, it's going to take objects, it's going to take the key value pairs, it's going to spread them out and put them into this new object that we're creating. It then does the same process with ratings 2. So hopefully we end up with one object with Usain Bolt, Gollum, Denzel, David Attenborough, and they're out of order, right? But that's just the way objects work in JavaScript. In fact, it's done it alphabetically for us. Yeah, but we've now got one object with all of our ratings inside. So then we might be able to get the maximum rating. I'm not going to worry about returning the name of that person for now, but how would you get the maximum rating of that? So we think we're going to use math.max again. We can get the minimum if you want, right, to be different. Math.min.
We need to use the 3 dots again.
No, no.
Okay, then use a rating.
So you just think we can do that?
Rating.
Ratings, yeah. Do you think we can do that then? But you need the 3 dots, is that what you're saying?
Exactly.
But we already spread it. We don't need to spread it.
If we get rid of the let,
Still need to work. It didn't work earlier because math is an array method, and this is an object.
No, math's not an array method. Don't get confused with that, right? We had to spread the array to get math.max to work. So now you're trying to spread an object to get math.min to work. But you can only spread an object into another object. That's the catch. Alright? This won't create a comma-separated list of things. It will just look for an object container to put itself in. So we can't do that. We're interested in just part of this object. We're interested in the values, yeah? These numbers. How do we get the values out of an object?
Yeah, you remove those dots.
Let's leave the 3 dots. We want to spread it into numbers at the end. How do we get the values out of an object?
Object.values.
Object.values. Nice one, Seb. Yeah? Remember that method? Object.values. What sort of data does object.values return? What data type?
String.
It's an array. Yeah. It returns an array of the values inside of an object. So we've got the values out of our object, and then we've spread them into a comma-separated list. So I think that should work. And we should end up with the value of 9, right? That's the minimum value. And we do.
I don't understand. Why do we have to spread again if we spread when we define the ratings in that line?
Yeah. So ratings was creating a brand new object that spread the results of the previous objects into 2 things, yeah? So we spread out ratings 1, we spread out ratings 2, and put them inside a new object. Called ratings. If I console.log ratings, what will it be? Will it be a comma-separated list or something else? Oops, not console.ratings, that's interesting.
Will be an array.
The objects.
It will be the object, yeah, it will be the ratings object. So now we've got the ratings object like that.
Okay.
Yeah? If we say let values equal object.values of rating, what will the value of ratings, of values be?
77, 33, 72, 89, 25.
Yeah, exactly. All of these numbers inside of what? Inside of an array, right? Object.values returns an array. So then down here, we can't just use values for the same reason as before, because values is an array. And math.min can't take an array as its input. It needs a comma-separated list, and we can get that by spreading it out. Yeah? That was not the easiest example, but you know, if you managed to follow that, like, really well done. Sorry, what's up, Jack? You're just laughing. Share it with the group. No? Okay. Again, I can share these snippets with you afterwards, and you can play around with them yourselves. Key thing to remember: we can spread any iterable object. Mostly, you'll see it used with arrays. We can spread objects, but it must be spread into another object. That's the catch at the moment. Yeah. So that's why we had to, if you like, do it in 2 stages. Create this brand new object and then get the array from that brand new object. Alright, let's hop onto the platform, and I think probably some of the examples on there are going to be easier than what we've just done, so let's see what we can do. Here, I'll share these articles as well, and it just shows you some other uses maybe that we haven't covered. Copying an array, copying an object, merging two arrays, which we've essentially done, right? We merged two objects and things like that. So I'll show those articles as well for you, and you can play around with the snippets and the questions on the platform. Alright, just a quick recap then. This one should be, zoom in slightly more if I can. So, we have a function, yeah? Min value. How many arguments does, or how many parameters even, either or, does this function take? 2? What 2?
Yeah, it's one.
It's 1. Good, yeah, it's 1. 1 array. How many does this take? 1 array. So it's always 1 array, yeah? So that's the format of our input data, is 1 array. So I'm going to call it numbers, and I'll put array, right? Just to be double clear for everyone that we've definitely got an array as our input. How then do we return just the minimum value from this array? Return, great start. Math.min, fantastic. 3 dots because we need a comma separated list. It cannot accept an array. And then numbers array is our input, yeah, into math.min. Any problems?
You don't use spread here, right? Because
Yeah, you don't need to, do it.
you already have
You're right.
inside your,
So you're saying I don't need the 3 dots.
yeah, I think so.
Agree, disagree? Why do you disagree?
Because math only applies to value. Correct.
Yep, so the function math.min only works with this sort of, oops.
Oh.
Yeah, let's not take the survey for now. With that sort of input. So if we do have an array, look what we have to do. You've even got an example down here on the official documentation.
So you can gather it instead of spreading it afterwards.
This is not gather, this is spread, because we
It's on the top.
only gathers when we're using it in the function parameter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Spread works two ways, yeah?
Well, spread only spreads and gather gathers, right? But the 3 dots work 2 ways. They either gather when they're in the function declaration, or they spread anywhere else, right? That's the clearest I can explain it for now, sorry.
Can you, in this case, instead of spreading there, gather there?
If we gather there, we're just going to turn an array into an array.
No. Gather there and not in the return. Gather on the parameter and not the...
Right, so this is spreading.
Yeah.
So why do I need to gather here?
No, what I meant, can you, instead of spreading there...
So you're saying do that, right?
Yeah, that.
Yeah. But we've still got the same problem. We've got an array. Yeah? Gather always gives us an array. That's our big problem. We have an array. We need a comma separated list of values.
Oh, no.
Right? If we gather an array, we just end up with another array.
Oh.
So it might even be a nested array. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah? So we don't need to gather in this instance. We've already got things gathered into one parameter for us. We need to spread. Right? Because that's the only way math.min is going to work, with spread out values. So I think we had it right straight away. Yeah, so very well done for giving that answer. Cool. Next one. Get sorted array. How many parameters have we got? 3. So do we probably need to gather or spread these? Probably need to gather them at some point, yeah? Because usually it's not a good practice to have lots of different parameters or arguments in our function, yeah? So if we want to gather them, where does it go? 3 dots inside of these brackets, yeah? And I'm just going to call it numbers again. I can even call it numbers array if you want, because it will be stored in an array. Then we want to sort. So what am I going to sort? So return numbers array dot sort. Yeah. Do I want to sort it ascending or descending based on these results here? So the numbers going up in value? Ascending, yeah, they're going up. So is that the default for sort? It is, yeah. The default sorting method is ascending. Numbers will go up from smallest to largest. So I shouldn't need to do anything other than that. Yeah? So you're looking, where do I use these three dots? Do I use it to gather or spread? If we've got a comma separated list, generally we're going to want to gather those into one array. And then we can perform powerful array methods on them, such as sort, or filter, or find, which we could not do in the past with the arguments object. No, I thought Sanjay was there. It's just me staring back at me. Alright. Next one? Or any questions on that? Caddy, making funny noses at me? No? All good?
If we wanted descending, what would happen?
Yeah, alright, I thought that was coming. So anyone know how to sort numbers in a descending way?
Yeah.
But oh yeah, alright. I mean that's not such a silly suggestion. We could first sort it and then reverse it. You could do that. Now we've got 632 rather than 236. That works.
How about if you put descending there and
You want to write the word descending in there and hope that it knows what you're talking about? I think it's pretty hopeful, unfortunately, at this stage to be able to put in descending or put in a string descending and have it sort that way. But we can write a function in here that tells it how to sort. We don't have to call it all this, but this is essentially what you're doing, right? You're creating a function in there and you will tell it how to sort. And what we want to do is that function itself needs two arguments. In this case, I'm not even going to put that because I always forget what order it does, but let's just say num1 and num2, right? It takes a couple of numbers as an input, and then we have to tell it how to shift around those two numbers. And the way to make it descending is do the second number minus the first number. Yeah, I know if we run that, nope, that's obviously, I've done something wrong there.
what's the bracket?
Oh, it's A minus B, B minus A.
Yep.
Some columns there, number 5, 9, 5.
Yeah, but that doesn't affect the result, right? I had the wrong result, so I just didn't put my return. So to do it descending, you can write a function that takes two arguments So I'm just converting it into an arrow function now because it's a bit easier to read. And you do second number minus the first number. So there is an algorithm that it's doing to determine that. So we've got, what was it? Array sort MDM. Yeah, so the algorithm that it's using is essentially that, right? If your compare function, which is just what we've written, is less than 0, then it's going to move that first number to an index lower than the second number. Alright, so we had B minus A. Yeah, so if we had the number 1 and the number 2, we're doing 2 minus 1, that gives a positive number. So if it's greater than 0, sort B to an index lower than A. So in other words, we've moved 2 in front of A. Yeah, we've made it descending. So this is the algorithm that sort is using to determine which comes first. And I always get a bit mixed up with how it does it, to be honest, so it's worth using, just referring back to that, or just remembering that if you want descending, do B minus A. Yeah? Cool. Explain below enough, yeah? Cheers. Do one more, I think, yeah?
Yeah.
So that just needed that one. Yeah, so we haven't looked at merging arrays yet. So how can we merge an array?
So you've got 2 arrays there, so it's array 1 and array 2, right?
Yep, so alright, let's have array 1 and array 2 as our...
Do we need join?
And you're saying, do we do array 1 dot join array 2, something like that? So what was join again? It was an array method, but what did it do? It joined an array, just a single one, into a string based on some sort of joiner, right?
You can do as you did before, that you make a variable.
So it's
Yeah.
array 1.
So we want to return an array, so we definitely don't want to use join because that's going to create a string for us. So Seb's saying create a variable, let result or something, yeah.
So I was thinking, between array 1 and array 2.
Merge it. Yeah, please.
Okay, let merged array, fine, yeah. Let merged array equals, how are we going to create a merged array, guys?
What would you say? Concat?
Yeah, we could do that, but it does say please use the rest parameter.
So if you use
But alright, we can use concat just to explain it. So it'd be array1 dot concat array2, yeah?
Yeah.
Sorry if I... Yeah. I'll save that for later. Seb, yeah? Array1 dot I've got a weird little dot up there for some reason. Yeah, so that works, right? You can absolutely merge arrays using the concat method. I have no issue with that. Won't work for objects though, I don't think, right? But it will work for arrays. How do we do it using the rest parameter instead? I'm not saying this is a better method, but it's useful to be able to do it.
Oh, would you spread it so it's individual values and then gather it back in?
Alright, okay.
As you did with the object.
Yeah, spread it into an array, as we did with the objects, exactly.
Oh, that is.
So we spread array 1, and then we spread array 2 inside of a brand new instance of an array. And that works. Yeah? So that's another common use of the...
That was easy.
Yeah, they're all pretty easy, right? So there's no reason not to use the spread and the rest operator. I think once you get used to it, it's a lot nicer way of gathering and spreading things. Yeah? I'm probably going to leave it there so I don't run on too much more. Yeah? Alright, but I hope that was helpful, and I will share those couple of snippets, and then you've got the training on the platform as well to help you. Cheers, guys.
Cheers, Barry.